Live right here on the early line on Sports Grid. We continue our reactions to Wild Card Weekend with one more game to go on this Monday night to figure out the final spot in the NFC entering the second round of the postseason. But DRS, before we get to Monday night out in the desert between the Rams and the Vikings, let's look at the AFC playoff bracket because everything has been decided on this side of the league. Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Inside Arrowhead, the Chiefs truly begin that third Super Bowl title defense, or at least they look for that third Super Bowl championship. They're more than a touchdown favorite at home against the Houston Texans. And it all will culminate next weekend in the divisional round with a matchup that will certainly be as good as advertised in Buffalo. It's the Bills and the Ravens. Right now, the flock, an ever so slight favorite, but I'm talking 8 cents of difference on the money line in favor of the Ravens. AFC Championship odds at this moment. The Chiefs, DRS, the number 1 seed. Still the favorite. They'll have home field advantage. That AFC title still runs through Arrowhead. Baltimore, again, an ever so slight road favorite in Western New York. 10 cents in front of Buffalo for those conference championship prices. Big win for Houston in H-Town on Saturday. Again, the odds not overly optimistic the Texans can pull the upset in KC.
No, and this is why, once again, Ben, you fight for that all-important number 1 overall seed to get the bye, and then you can sit back with your popcorn after you win, or let's just say win the football game and say, man, look at those two teams that got to tee it up. Thank goodness we don't have to play both of those. We're just going to have to play one of them as long as we handle our business. And understand this, too, from that graphic. You see the plus 130. That is correct on the Chiefs. They're home. They're going to play a team they're supposed to beat by a touchdown. That's why they're bet that way. Look at the Ravens, plus 230, and the Bills, plus 240. Understand this. They win that football game, either one, Ravens or Bills, that doesn't mean, oh, yeah, we just transfer the 240 and 230 over to the next round. Like, no, that drops basically to a pick 'em as maybe, I didn't see the hypothetical lines if they even have them out what they're supposed to be. What's that line on either one of those teams going to Kansas City? 2-1, somewhere around to pick 'em at that point? Like, depending on how those games go, maybe some injuries that play out. So I do agree the Chiefs should be favorites. But the winner of that Ravens-Bills game, they're basically going to be a coin flip against the Chiefs in their own building. A sensational AFC championship game. As long as Kansas City wins this weekend, you are set up for an absolutely epic championship Sunday in the AFC. But for me, I agree with the pricing there. That's the way it should be. I want to see how much of an MVP effort out of those two quarterbacks, which is going to take next weekend to get them into the AFC championship game. And also the attrition, Ben, that we talk about. Like, Kansas City's resting. They're going to get an opponent they should beat. You're now looking at the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. Full gas, full go, toe-to-toe, and the survivor gets Kansas City on the road in another game the next week. So advantage Kansas City right now, but that's going to be a fun one to see how it finishes up.
$1 in front of the Ravens, $1.10 in front of Buffalo. To Donnie's point, what would a projected line then be for an AFC championship game in Arrowhead? Less than a field goal, at least in my estimation. Probably not a 3 and a hook out there for KC against Buffalo or Kansas City against Baltimore. We are going to have some rematches regardless if the Chiefs do knock off the Texans on Saturday afternoon. Again, KC more than a touchdown favorite. Hasn't been great for Kansas City covering numbers when laying that many points throughout this season. But the Chiefs, of course, in pole position. Even DRS, reaching the AFC Championship game would be a small bit of history for the Chiefs. 8 previous teams have won back-to-back Super Bowls in the history of the NFL. Never have any of those 8 previous two-time champs made it even to a Super Bowl. Only 3 times have the previous 8 even earned the right to contend in a conference championship matchup. The Chiefs looking to make history in numerous ways this year. Let me get your thoughts quickly on the marquee matchup already for the divisional round. The Ravens and the Bills. You mentioned it. 2 MVP contenders. Lamar Jackson, first team AP All-Pro. A good sign that maybe Lamar is going to win his second consecutive MVP award. But Josh Allen and Buffalo going to have a lot to say about that. It will be the final of 4 games in the divisional round. And the Ravens are a slight moneyline favorite at this moment. DRS, do you believe that even Baltimore should be having a couple of extra cents as a slight moneyline favorite in Orchard Park?
I do. And you know, it's funny. It's like Zay Flowers missed that football game. And I said, you know what? That's actually a good thing for the Ravens because they won't get out of what they're supposed to do in the playoffs, which is run the football and use the pass just to hammer that home. If Zay Flowers misses his football game, as stupid as it sounds as a handicapper, that makes me like the Buffalo Bills even more. Just take a picture of that game you just played against the Steelers and use that same formula. You'll beat the Buffalo Bills. It's not hard.
We end out Wild Card Weekend, our sixth and final matchup, a Monday Night Football finale tonight in Glendale, Arizona, between the Rams and the Vikings. Of course, let's start there with the location of tonight's game. Of course, not where we expected this game to be even a week ago, but as devastating and tragic wildfires continue to rage on in multiple spots in the greater Los Angeles area, the NFL made this call on Thursday night to move the game officially to Glendale, Arizona, at the home of the Arizona Cardinals. Still billed as a home game for the LA Rams. That's where this will be played on a Monday. Before we get to the game, we send all of our thoughts and our love to everybody in Los Angeles. This show, this program, The Early Line, airs out in Los Angeles on a daily basis. We are thinking of all of you. Long path to recovery continues. Winds are supposed to pick up on this Friday. Those first responders, the firefighters, DRS, doing the very difficult task of still battling these wildfires right now, which led to the location of this wild card game to be moved out to Arizona.
Yes, and also watching some of the pictures, like we see the devastation, but you talk about like the first responders. How about the true first responders, the people actually defending their own homes, seeing them walk on their roofs with basically just a small hose here when the fires are on either side of their house. I can't imagine the trauma and just the days and the exhaustion of just protecting your own. Like we talk about, you get your car banged up a little bit. Oh, what a struggle it is just to get that fixed. Can you imagine losing not only your house, but every single thing in that house there? And yes, most people will be walking away saying, you know what, at least I have my family. But I can't imagine the devastation of losing everything you have. And also, Ben, the slow burn of watching it actually go down, where some people haven't evacuated, like, you know, it's right next door and now my house is gone as well. I just can't imagine that trauma. So certainly, as Ben pointed out, thinking of all the people, first responders all the way through, homeowners, anybody out there, evacuees, maybe tonight you get a little bit of a reprieve because you can watch your favorite football team play a game and cheer them on. But my goodness, the minute that game is over, you go back to reality, and that's the tough part.
Even a state away, with the Rams technically billed as the home team tonight in Arizona, it will be an emotional Monday night, no doubt about it. Now to the actual game to end out Wild Card Weekend. The Vikings were a road favorite, even with the game originally scheduled for SoFi Stadium. The number now 2.5 in favor of the Vikes in Glendale. Total 47 and a hook. We did see the line work back to the Vikings ever so slightly when the destination of this game was moved. I'll just say this. The Rams don't exactly have the best home field advantage. It's a destination for opposing fan bases, and many that love the Vikes would love to get out of Minneapolis or Minnesota this time of year and head to Southern California. So I don't really take a lot of stock in this game now being in Glendale, not a true home environment for Los Angeles. It changes the logistics for both teams in terms of their preparation. Let's talk about the football teams against one another. How do you think they match up tonight, DRS, to end out Wild Card Weekend?
Look, home field advantage is big. And I know a lot of people say, like, and again, you're rightfully so, Minnesota fan base travels really well. They would have had a meet. Who knows if even who would have had more fans in the building, as crazy as that sounds, because LA still trying to build their fan bases up, only being back in the city for a few years. But understand this, home field advantage is much more, Ben. When you get to sleep in your own bed, you get to take your car to the stadium. You're in your home locker room. The other team is traveling and you're not. Now, all of a sudden, you expected to get that advantage to yourself, and now you're going on the road. When Minnesota always knew, Ben, they were going to travel. And whether or not they were traveling to L.A. or Arizona or Philadelphia, it didn't matter. They were on the road. So that certainly says something to it. And understanding just the, thought process of, we're playing in another field. We don't get a home field advantage, but also I'm worried about my family. I'm worried about my house. Like, I'm worried about everything back home, and I still have to play a football game. Now, the Rams are doing everything they can with Stan Kroenke, the owner, flying down multiple planes of family members, even pets, making these players feel as home as possible. But they understand they're not really home at this point, and that's a distinct advantage now to Minnesota. Also understand this. You're going to an environment which is still a dome. That certainly does help the Vikings and the Rams. So from a play perspective, typically you'd say, okay, let's just say the Rams home field advantage was something and the crowd was loud. You're now operating with two teams technically on the road, but really not in that road environment, which means the crowd won't be as loud. They're two dome teams playing in a dome. I actually think that helps the total more than anything because neither team is really going to be up against it when they have the football. That should help out. I do think Minnesota, to me, is the better football team and should bounce back in that game from Detroit. But I'm looking for a pretty good effort here. The one thing I love about it is you saw the Rams, the final game of the season, rest their key players, which is so big. You saw the Vikings not having the chance to rest their players because they were playing in a Super Bowl of the NFC North, which, again, we're wondering how they bounce back after saying, boy, if we won that game, we're home, we have a bye, we might be able to make it to the Super Bowl, now doing it on the road. So I do think some of that stuff evens out. But for me, I think it impacts maybe the total more than anything because that not having the true home field environment for one team.
We have not seen a ton of offense throughout Wild Card Weekend. Only our first game of 5 throughout Saturday and Sunday in Houston between the Chargers and the Texans pushed to the over, 32-12. Total was 41.5. That was 44 points. Again, we have not seen a ton of offense. Highest total of the entirety of the opening round was last night on a Sunday in Tampa, 51 and a hook. It stayed well under with the Commanders winning 23-20. This number, 47 and a half. DRS, Minnesota is a 14-3 football team. That has to be a wild card team when all is said and done because the only team in front of them played in their same division, the Detroit Lions. The Vikings also behind the Lions in terms of cover percentage. Detroit 12-5 ATS this year. Minnesota's second best cover team, 11-5-1 against the spread. But the Rams, as an underdog, have been pretty darn good with Matthew Stafford under center since week number 5. Because through the first 5 games this year for Los Angeles, they started 1-4. And then they won 9 of their next 11, including a short week Thursday night game, week number 7, that the Rams turned things around against the Vikings, or perhaps week number 8. Regardless, short week Thursday night in LA. The Rams won outright as a 2.5-point underdog against Minnesota, 30-20, in a game that featured a total of 46.5. Those numbers way back for that Thursday night football game in October look very similar to the numbers tonight out in Arizona. 2.5-point spread in favor of the Vikings, a total at 47.5. We will continue to break this game down with the player prop perspective as well. Next on the Early Line. Live right here on the Early Line on Sports Grid. It's a Monday to kick off a new week, but a Monday night football finale to end out the opening round of the NFL postseason Wild Card Weekend. Tonight in Glendale, Arizona, it's the Rams playing host to the Minnesota Vikings. Again, the game moved because of the dangerous wildfires continuing to rage in Los Angeles. 2.5-point spread in favor of the Vikings with a total at 47 and a hook. DRS, we have talked about this game. Now let's dive into the players that will impact the outcome directly, otherwise known as the prop market. You mentioned it. Minnesota was playing for a divisional championship last weekend. The Vikings hoping for a number 1 seed, the bye and home field advantage. They came up short in Detroit because of the worst performance in a Vikings uniform by Sam Darnold. Season low completion percentage, season low passing yardage output. Did not throw an interception, but also did not throw a touchdown. His number tonight against LA, 264.5. On the other side, the veteran, Matthew Stafford, 242 and a hook. You can see the numbers that are pretty similar everywhere else. How do you compare these two quarterbacks tonight in this Monday Night Football finale to Wild Card Weekend?
Both should have success, but I'm looking for that bounce back from Sam Darnold, who had a bad performance against Detroit, and Kevin O'Connell, who's going to be up for that Coach of the Year. I know it's already been voted on, and it doesn't count in the playoffs, but you can't tell him he's going to have back-to-back horrible performances there because Sam Darnold has been great this entire season. Wasn't great last week, but that was a tough environment in Detroit. Fans going nuts, a big Super Bowl stage, or maybe it was a little bit too big, but it's good that he got a piece of that last week. Said, you know what? Didn't play my best. Going on the road against a team of a lesser defense to me with the Rams, I should be able to provide. And that's up to the coach. But honestly, if we're saying, Donnie, which quarterback do you trust more? Of course it's going to be Matthew Stafford. Been there, done that, done it longer, and has a Super Bowl championship. He's not going to buckle in that environment. He's got a couple great wide receivers and a running back. But for me, if I'm betting statistics here, I'm expecting that Vikings offense to return to what they've been doing over the season to opposing defenses. I like the over 1.5 touchdowns. It's way more expensive on Darnold than Stafford, but I do believe that. Also, anytime interception, he's going to throw one. I'd probably bet that as well for Darnold, but I look for a better performance in the air, over 264, multiple touchdown passes, but does probably mix in an interception.
Again, last week, 18 of 41, 166 yards. Both of those season lows or season worst. No touchdowns, no INT. Sam Darnold has played such clean football relatively down the back end of this season. 7 of the 8 entering the regular season finale last Sunday night in the Motor City. Multiple touchdowns and was throwing the ball, 18 touchdowns, I believe, to 2 INTs. Matthew Stafford, this Rams team has been interesting in the ways they have found variety ways to win. He's been under this number in 4 of the last 5, the only time over in that shootout against the Buffalo Bills. But in the final 3 wins for LA, week 15, 16, 17, low-scoring games where the defense allowed a total of 24 points. Well under these numbers for Stafford, a guy that got a lot of usage in the defensive grinded-out wins for the Rams to make sure they could win the NFC West. That was Kyren Williams. 81.5, his number tonight. Aaron Jones, slightly banged up last week, perhaps wasn't a huge factor of the Vikings offense in Detroit. What do you expect out of the backs in this matchup?
Aaron Jones is the factor tonight. Also, take a look at Cam Akers, a little bit under the weather, not practicing due to an illness. Also, you look for the entirety of the season, Aaron Jones was wonderful. Doesn't get the ball a ton as if like a Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry, but he hasn't been himself the past couple weeks with that thigh injury. Getting a full practice in his last practice, I'm expecting him to be used because if you watch the Detroit game, he was missing those explosive plays, not using him in the red zone, throwing a little bit too much. He's the key to the offense. Usually it's Justin Jefferson or the quarterback itself. No, I actually think it's Aaron Jones. If he gets over 59.5 rushing yards tonight, that really bodes well for the Minnesota Vikings winning this game. So he is my key to the offense tonight, and I do think he excels. He's going to be used tonight because why? Once again, Ben, there is no tomorrow. There's no saving your running back for the next weekend. If it takes 20 carries out of Aaron Jones tonight to get that done, he's going to need to do it. I like his numbers tonight.
And when you look at the receivers tonight, DRS, pick your poison. It's as good as you will find. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Puka Nacua. Might we see Cooper Kupp step up once more?
Yeah, where are you, Coop? Yeah, exactly. We need that again. You're looking at the offense. Just told you it's Aaron Jones. It's not actually Puka Nacua. We know he's going to be there. If we're getting nothing again from Cooper Kupp, they're not winning this game. We need Cooper Kupp of 2 years ago, 7 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown at a minimum tonight to win this game. Where you at, Cooper? We're looking for you.
DRS, the last 3 games for LA because they rested all their starters in the regular season finale. Fewer than 30 receiving yards each and every time. Hour 3, our third and final next. We welcome you to hour number 3, our third and final. Bright and early here on this Monday morning to kick off a new week. It is the early line on Sports Grid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. One more hour to go. Still to break down each and every angle of our Monday night football finale to Wild Card Weekend. The Vikings and the Rams tonight in Arizona. Minnesota, a short favorite against Los Angeles with a total at 47 and a hook. We'll hear from you, how you approach Monday Night Football. We'll hear from TV Tom Vecchio, how he approaches Monday Night Football. You'll get some picks and some best bets from Donnie and I, and we'll get the injury analysis and insight at the end of Wild Card Weekend. The field views for tonight from the Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow as well.
Yes, and I'm excited for this game tonight. We should have some excitement here, of course, because that total close to 50 at this point, 47.5, a spread that's under 3. 2 teams obviously looking to advance. The winner will play in Philadelphia on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern. So for me, being an Eagles fan, getting to watch this game, a little self-scouting out here, just see who's doing what. Is anybody getting banged up? Any key players stepping to the table? But I think we get a pretty clean effort tonight in a By the way, it's not going to be a sterile environment. Like, hey, just have to move this game on short notice. There's 2,000 fans there. There's going to be a lot of fans in this game. It'll be interesting who they actually cheer for and who it affects more.
Yeah.
But I think we got a really good game on a standalone primetime game to end Wild Card Weekend.
Yeah, I do as well, DRS. It should be a lot of fun on this Monday night. An emotional night as well, of course, with the game moved from Los Angeles to Arizona because of the continuously burning and devastating wildfires out in the greater LA area. But again, sometimes sports can be that reprieve. Sometimes sports can provide that distraction, that joy back to your life. Both the Rams and the Vikings will hope to do that with an entertaining game to end out the opening round of the NFL postseason. From the wagering perspective, what is the best bet for this Monday Night Football finale? You tell us and Fade the Public. A very intriguing Fade the Public poll at SportsGrid on Twitter. What is the best bet for tonight's NFL playoff game between the Vikings and the Rams? Minnesota as a 2.5-point favorite. The Rams getting 2.5 points. Is it the over or the under of that total of 47 and a hook? In DRS, it seems as though the public is mainly trying to figure out which side they like more. Most of the public, a little bit more than 39%, backing the Rams as the underdog. I would assume also a sprinkle on that outright moneyline price as well, or laying less than a field goal with the Vikes, 36%. Only 13% on the over, nearly 12% on the under, so pretty even there, but not as much attention to that total of 47 and a hook. The public really, DRS, trying to figure out, is it Minnesota or is it LA?
Yeah, no, it's pretty good, too, because you're taking a look at two evenly matched teams, as we said. You're removing home field advantage out of the equation. That's what you're getting, 36% and 39%, respectively, between the Vikings and the Rams. For me, I did take the Vikings at -2.5. I'm expecting a bounce-back effort in this game for them. And maybe also the Rams, who are coming in a little bit more rested than the Vikings, but a lot more on their minds with the fires going on and the game actually being relocated, them worrying about their family and their houses, and rightfully so here at this point. So for me, it's still going to be the Vikings at -2.5 the total, which is interesting too. 13% to roughly 12% here on the over-under. It shows that usually when you get that decided effort out of the public, it's like, ooh, a little bit weary, too easy at this point on a 2.5-point line. But we're showing up here. Yeah. It looks like Vegas, as we like to say, nailed that line and also that side, and that's why we're getting votes so close right now.
Opened at 2.5 in favor of Minnesota when the game was originally slated, of course, for Los Angeles inside SoFi Stadium. Early last week, we saw some buy-in to the Rams despite most of the public money on the FanDuel Sportsbook still backing the Vikes in terms of the spread. A lot of the public, or at least a little bit more of the public, likes LA in our poll, but Donnie, still 64% of the money in terms of the spread bets with the Vikings. 66% of the bets on the spread overall still with the Vikings. The Rams, since the end of week 5, in a 1-4 start, as the early portion of the season for Los Angeles, plagued by injuries. Puka, Nacua, Cooper Kupp, basically everybody on the O-line trying to protect the veteran in Matthew Stafford. It was not a great start to the year. But then the Rams won 9 of their next 11. A Week 8 matchup, short week Thursday Night Football at home against Minnesota that saw the Rams as a 2.5-point underdog win outright. That really the turning point of LA's season. I remember breaking down that game with you, being like, if the Rams have any hope whatsoever of having yet another dramatic turnaround as we saw a season ago in 2023, it really starts tonight with a victory over the Vikings, who started off perfect 5-0, and then after the loss on that short week Thursday night game in LA, had dropped to straight. Minnesota then went on to win a ton in a row. In fact, 9 straight before the regular season finale last Sunday against Detroit. But Donnie, both of these teams have been really good this year where they find themselves in terms of the spread, including that short week Thursday night game against the Vikings. Since week 5 on with Matthew Stafford starting, the Rams are both 3-1 straight up and against the spread as an underdog. Minnesota 11-5-1 against the spread overall this season. And the Vikings have largely been booked as a favorite really since week number 4 of this season. Should be a good game tonight. The public is telling you so. Not exactly sure who they want to lay most of their wagers on, and less than a field goal spread to end out wild card weekend.
Yeah, and that's what we're getting here. This is why you're in the playoffs here, evenly matched opponents going toe-to-toe. The one question I guess you could possibly have is, we took a look at the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday. Boy, how can they lose this game? Couple weeks off for Jalen Hurts, maybe comes back rusty. He did, but they still won the football game, and he played well when it mattered. We look at Sam Darnold facing that adversity of not playing well on the road last week against Detroit. Yeah. Did he turn into a pumpkin? Can he bounce back out of it? Because the one thing you do know is this game has a lot to do with psychology in your head and how motivated you are to play good in that football game. And sometimes it's just that I didn't play well. How do I bounce back? Or is it, boy, we missed a lot of open throws to Justin Jefferson. And let's just say in this game, Minnesota's driving on a key 3rd and 4 in the red zone. Justin Jefferson runs that quick slant, and that ball is not where it's supposed to be. Instead of a touchdown, it turns into an incomplete pass, or worse, an interception. And does that actually snowball on Sam Darnold? I'm betting against that. I think he's a good enough quarterback here to go up against this defense and move the football with a lot of weapons. And I'm going to trust what I saw on the season out of Sam Darnold and the Vikings as it pertains to tonight. But those are the angles that I'm looking at. And I think Sam Darnold will have a bounce-back performance in a good direction tonight.
Yeah, entering that regular season finale, DRS, 6 of the previous 7 games, Darnold, multiple touchdown passes in that span. In the 7-game span, 18 TDs to only 2 INTs. Matthew Stafford hasn't thrown for more than 2 bills now in 3 consecutive starts, as the Rams have relied on their young and ever-improving defense. We saw the Lions bring a ton of pressure against Sammy D last Sunday night. Only sacked him twice, but you could tell it messed up his timing and rhythm. The Rams are going to look to do that with that young defensive line anchored by Jared Verse, the rookie out of Florida State. But guys like Byron Young, Brendan Fisk, a ton for this LA defense that can get to the quarterback tonight. And Donnie, as we talk props yet again, you said it right before the break, Cooper Kupp might be the X factor for LA. Yep. 48.5 is the number. In the first game against Minnesota, we saw Puka Nacua over 100 yards, Cooper Kupp more than 50, and a receiving score. There have been times this year, not all that many together, but times this year when the Rams' offense on full display is both Nacua and Kupp getting theirs.
Yes, and that needs to happen tonight. Can't be one-dimensional. Look, Puka is one of the best young wide receivers in the sport here, but Cooper Kupp needs to be activated tonight and active in that football game. We can't be 25 or 30 yards or less. He's got to be the old Cooper Kupp if you want to win playoff games against opponents I believe are just a little bit better than you are.
Yep, absolutely so. We'll continue the breakdown for Monday night out in the desert a little bit later on in this hour. We continue to break down and preview the Monday night finale to Wild Card Weekend tonight in Glendale, Arizona, between the Rams and the Vikings. 2.5-point spread in favor of Minnesota. Total stands at 47 and a hook. DRS, we didn't really talk a ton about the total as we started this third hour, because in the Fade the Public poll, it was mostly the public trying to determine would they lay less than a field goal with the Vikes, would they back the Rams as the underdog. A little bit more love for the over than the under, but really only about 24-25% of the entire vote, even on the total of 47 and a hook. 4 of the first 5 games during Wild Card Weekend, well under. Our only over, first game on Saturday, the Texans winning 32-12. Total was 41.5. It ekes over because of a late Chargers score. We haven't seen a ton of offensive production throughout the opening round of this postseason. Might that change tonight out in the desert?
It could be. And by the way, what are some of the common denominators here? Commanders and the Bucks, 23-20, outdoors. Packers, Eagles, 22-10, outdoors. Bills, Broncos, 31-7, outdoors. Steelers, Ravens, 24-14, outdoors. 32-12 over, indoor game between the Chargers and the Texans. It's one of the things that, we look at from separating seasons, as I like to say. Early in the season, teams still trying to get underway, but you're getting warmer temperatures. Everybody's healthy. Now you have the battle of attrition, not only for the season-long tendencies, where you have a lot of tape there. Sometimes you're worried about playing in colder environments that some teams might not be used to. We're now going to get 2 dome teams playing in a dome, what was the only game that went over? 2 dome teams playing in a dome in Wild Card Weekend. I'm not saying that's a direct correlation, and yes, because 2 dome teams are playing in a dome, it goes over. But one of the things we always worry about, is there going to be rain? Is there going to be snow showers? Is it going to be cold? How's that going to play out? Because the hits hit harder, feels like in the cold, and how you recover from those is a little bit easier in a controlled environment. So I do think it helps for the total. 47.5 is a key number. Most people like to say under the 47s at that point, but I do think both of these offenses with quarterbacks that let it rip with wonderful offensive coordinators, I think it just makes sense that it leans towards the over for me.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the total. I think we could see a slower start. I think there will be some great live betting opportunities to maybe get to an over. Are we going to see 5 of 6 games under with our really highest scoring game from a total perspective be 44 points? I'm not so sure. I do think we see some offense tonight. The first time these two teams played DRS back on a short week Thursday night game in week number 8, we did go over a pregame total of 46.5 with 50 combined points. The Rams winning outright as a 2.5-point dog, 30-20. In both quarterbacks, a big reason why. Matthew Stafford, 279 yards, 4 touchdowns. Sam Darnold, 240 yards and 2 touchdowns, combining to throw 6 touchdowns in the game. Not sure we see the same production tonight, but what do you make of the quarterbacks?
Yeah, I do think both of these quarterbacks will have aggressive game plans coming in because let's understand, like, defense is better typically here on Minnesota's side for me for the season as it plays out. But what do you have, Ben? Again, we just talked about the dome environment here to help both of these quarterbacks that are used to playing in domes. Also, elite talent at the wide receiver position and wonderful play callers. It lines up for both of these quarterbacks should have success. But just getting back to the notion, I do think Sam Darnold throws 2 touchdown passes. I also think Justin Jefferson catches 1 of those touchdown passes. And it's not a lot, 264, 242. Seems like a lot in the playoffs because you're seeing some of those quarterbacks booked around the 212, 215 number. But nothing should shut these quarterbacks down from being aggressive where the coaches are coming in saying, you know what? I don't know if I trust my quarterback in the biggest spots here. No, I'm expecting full gas game plans, particularly because the Rams were waiting and rested with their top players, understanding who they were going to play in this football game. And from the opposite side of it, you're looking for a bounce-back effort for Minnesota that was in a tough environment that maybe learned something from playing a pseudo playoff game last week and now have a second chance to try to overcome what those difficulties were in that first game there. I do think we get some offense. I'm trusting both of these quarterbacks in this game.
Only scored 9 points last week, did Minnesota. Aaron Jones dealing with a quad contusion from the week prior. Still got 10 carries, but for only about 45 yards. Cam Akers, the former Ram, was actually Minnesota's leading rusher last week in Detroit, finishing with 65. Aaron Jones's numbers tonight against L.A., you see them on the screen. Kyron Williams now minus 145 to hit Pater. Best price of any player in this game to score a touchdown. Scored a touchdown in the first 6 games for L.A., then did not score in 4 consecutive. Enters this game, didn't play, of course, in the regular season finale, having scored in 5 of his final 6, entering this matchup tonight against the Vikings. Even more from a prop perspective with TV Tom Vecchio of Sports Grid. That's next. We welcome you back to the early line on this Monday, live right here across the Sports Grid Network. One final football game to Wild Card Weekend to end out the opening round of the NFL postseason before maybe the best weekend of football all year. That is the division round, the final spot available in the NFC of the 4 teams on that side of the conference to be determined tonight between the Vikings and the Rams out in Glendale, Arizona. To help us make sense of it all from a prop perspective, what the numbers are telling us entering this Monday night finale, it's TV Tom Vecchio of Sports Grid, live right here on the early line. Tom, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here to start off a new week.
Of course, thanks for having me. We are in for another great game tonight. I know these haven't been the most exciting games, but that just means take a lot of unders as we are, in wild card weekend. I think that's what we should be expecting. Teams playing things super close to the vest, super straightforward. They're not taking these random shots in terms of offensive play calling. We have seen mistakes from a lot of teams, but it leads to profitability when you look on the side of unders. That doesn't mean I love all unders today. There are actually a few overs that I like for this game. I'm ready to go.
We have seen a lot of unders so far throughout the opening round. 4 of the 5 matchups under our highest scoring game, 44 points. That was scored between the Texans and the Chargers way back in the opener on Saturday. Tonight's total, 47.5, and just a 2.5-point spread in favor of the Vikings taking on the Rams. Vecchio, we haven't also seen many close games outside of Sunday night yesterday in Tampa between the Commanders and the Buccaneers. But the odds makers expecting a tight game tonight out in the desert with a relatively high total, at least based on the opening round of the postseason so far. What are the numbers telling you for Monday Night Football between Minnesota and Los Angeles?
I think the Rams win. I do. I'm on the Rams at plus 2.5. I think we're looking at like a 24-20 kind of final. I think it'll be pretty close. We're going to see a good amount of scoring, maybe even a little bit lower than that, maybe a 21-17. I think the Rams will come away with the victory. Frankly, what the Vikings showed last week is terrible. It really was. And I think it leads me to a specific game script for the Vikings. And that does lead to some overs when it comes to Sam Darnold, some of their offensive players. I think we can look there. The Rams side of things, I actually think it's pretty tough. Kyren Williams lines are super high. Same thing with Puka Nacua. I think they're super refined. I don't have a whole lot of interest in going there. I think the carries for Kyren Williams could be fine, but I think we're going to see some scoring from the Rams side of things, and we will see the Vikings playing catch-up when it comes to the game script overall.
Two dome teams playing in a dome, neutral environment tonight. Last week, not really happy with what we saw out of Sam Darnold. Wasn't very good against Detroit. A chance to bounce back, but also understanding Matthew Stafford is going to be playing in this football game with his play caller, McVay, who's wonderful. We know that. And also healthy and rested. And maybe we see more a little about Cooper Kupp. But let's get to the quarterbacks itself. 242.5 is Matthew Stafford's prop. Sam Darnold's updated is 264.5. The touchdown pass is usually typically listed at the FanDuel Sportsbook at over 1.5. Juiced with Matthew Stafford at 114. Much more juice on Sam Darnold at 168. How are you attacking the quarterback position tonight, Tom?
As I said, Darnold did not look good last week, right? 18 of 41 when it comes to his passing. What's the most important thing if the Vikings were to win this game? Do they want to go into next week at Philadelphia saying, oh, it was great that Aaron Jones had over 20 carries and 100 yards on the ground and Sam Darnold ended with 150 yards? Like, no, they need to have the confidence on offense to say Sam Darnold can go punch for punch with an Eagles offense, and they need to build that confidence. So what does that lead to? It leads to the Vikings pushing things into a passing game script tonight, because if they were to beat the Eagles, hypothetically, which I don't think will happen, they have to then go head-to-head with the Lions. And again, having a strong running game against the Lions is not the way to beat them. It's going punch for punch with Goff and that offense, and that leads to more and more passing. So Darnold building the confidence on the entire offense via the passing game is what has to happen tonight. So Darnold over 33.5 passing attempts is where I think things will lean. Can we look to the completions? Sure. Can you look to the yards? Sure, Donnie, in the last segment, over on 1.5 passing touchdowns. Also, totally fine, but it has to start with them moving the ball in the air. Now, we can look to, we can say, he's going to be passing a lot. It's going to go to Justin Jefferson. It's going to go to Addison, Hawkinson, whatever it might be, but it has to start with Darnold being productive tonight.
Still 41 attempts last week for Sam Darnold in that regular season finale in the Motor City. Just 18 completions, his season worst completion percentage in week number 18. There was some question, Vecchio, about the Minnesota running back. Aaron Jones entering last week, quad contusion, still was out there, 10 carries, 45 yards. It was actually the former Rand, though. Cam Akers, less attempts, 6, but more yards, 65 on the ground. As you look at Aaron Jones and Kyren Williams on the other side for L.A., how do you compare these two running backs tonight?
So Kyren Williams, I think he could absolutely get there. I think it's 94 for his rushing plus receiving combined. I think that's totally in play as well. For Aaron Jones, specifically, I like him under 14.5 attempts. This plays into the fact that he's maybe not fully healthy. Cam Akers is going to continue to play a role for the Vikings. See, 5, 6, 7 carries, whatever it might be. Not a high amount, but again, also I'm expecting passing from the Vikings, and that's just going to lead to fewer attempts from Jones overall. As I said, I do expect the Vikings to be playing from behind. I think the Rams will be winning. The Vikings have to pass the ball. So it's kind of all building into one thing for me, where they have to get the confidence going from Darnold, and that's just going to lead to fewer carries for Jones overall. And again, he's not fully healthy with his quad issue dating back a couple of weeks at this point.
Let's take a look at the pass catchers here, Tom, because it's easy to focus on Justin Jefferson, awesome wideout, Puka Nacua equally. But one guy who used to be awesome was Cooper Kupp. He's listed at 48.5 at the FanDuel Sportsbook, which back in the day, which is like 2 years ago, that's like his first half total because of how dominant he was. Has disappeared as of late. Is Cooper Kupp somebody that you would be looking towards betting tonight, or just you can't trust on based on the previous outcomes that we've seen over the past few games?
I think my favorite answer for this would be, or like the ideal answer would be like, let's lay off of him to start and let's get an in-game number. Because if that in-game number drops to, let's say, 39, maybe the Rams do fall behind and they have to pass the ball. Puka Nacua is going to see his action, but like Cooper Kupp could still break off these 15, 20-yard catches to the sideline, as we've seen time and time again. Him getting over one defender, under the safety, whatever it might be. And Stafford always looks to him. So I think we can look there as an in-game number for Cooper Kupp to be one of my favorites when it comes to the Rams side of things. I don't want to have interest in Puka. I just think that line is too high. He could absolutely get there, but I missed the boat on the early line. So no pun intended, but.
Love that pun.
Or absolutely pun intended. Highest number tonight is Puka Nacua at 91.5, even north of that of Justin Jefferson. Plenty on the other side, of course, Vecchio for Minnesota. You expect Sam Darnold to air it out a ton tonight. Who then would you look at as one of his top targets?
I think Jordan Addison over 4.5 receptions is receptions. I just generally don't go to receiving yards more. So I think receptions for Addison will be fine. Some of those underneath options, if Jefferson is covered deep, I think is great. But T.J. Hockenson, I specifically like tonight over 44.5 receiving yards. Throughout the regular season, the Rams allowed 1,101 receiving yards to opposing tight ends. That was the third most in the league. They also allowed 7 touchdowns, which was tied for the 5th most. So there is some defensive inefficiency when it comes to their linebackers, their safeties covering tight ends. And again, if they're diverting extra effort to a Justin Jefferson or Addison, that underneath option for Hockenson really could be there tonight.
Yeah. Any when sort of, if we take a look at, I was going to there you go. Look, Tom's top props there, BSS. We're getting after it here. Thanks for help from our trusty producer behind the scenes on the late 1-minute call.
No
We're
doubt.
here, though. We got plenty of time. Tom, give me an underrated player tonight. Give me an underrated player tonight that we can look at this. You know what? Some people might not be focusing on that you think might have a good game tonight.
Tyler Higbee. Right? Everyone's going to be focusing on those Kyron Williams props. We're going to look at Puka. Maybe it is a breakout game for Cooper Kupp, but Tyler Higbee coming back late in the season, a little bit of postseason redemption, buying to that storyline from last season when he got hurt. Like, maybe he can't, there's a chance he goes over on his yards, but still under on his receptions.
Tyler Higbee, the number tonight for the Rams tight end that is now back in action. So try to hunt it down 25.5. That's good stuff. Tom Vecchio, as always, you saw the top props. He'll be there for all of your Monday Night Football needs to end out the opening round of the postseason later tonight on Sports with Tom. Thank you. Our best bets for Monday. Next. So you heard it from Tom Vecchio. We've heard from the public. We know everything we need for this Monday Night Football finale to Wild Card Weekend tonight out in the desert between the Rams and the Vikings. Now it's time for some picks from Donnie Rightside and myself, Ben Stevens. We run the triple option here to end out this Monday. Our favorite side, total, and prop on the early line. DRS, when it comes to a side, it is less than a field goal number in favor of Minnesota. The Vikings laying 2.5 tonight against the LA Rams. Our total stands at 47 and a hook. The Vikings, the second best cover team this year in the NFL. 11-5-1 against the spread. The Rams, since week number 5, when they started to turn their season around as an underdog with Matthew Stafford starting under center, 3-1, both straight up and against the spread, including an outright victory as a 2.5-point home dog against the Vikings way back in week 8 on a short week Thursday night affair. So when it comes to your favorite side for the final game to Wild Card Weekend, which way do you look?
I'm going to go Vikings. I'm going to say they rebound from that effort against Detroit, which was on the road. And yes, this is a road game, but it's actually a road game for both teams. So it sort of limits the damage of not having Los Angeles comfortable in their own building. I think that helps. If I look at play callers, you're probably looking at, would give the edge to McVay, but we're probably seeing the coach of the year as a possibility coming from Kevin O'Connell. And that's the offense that we loved all season long with Justin Jefferson at wide receiver. And also, just taking a look at the defenses head to head, I would take Brian Flores as my defensive coordinator, and I'll take that defense over the Rams. So I don't think it's going to be a blowout tonight. I think it's going to be a great game, one possession into the fourth quarter. I'm just trusting the Minnesota Vikings with what I saw on the entirety of the season to play well tonight and beat the Rams.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the Rams outright, but plus 2.5. When this game was in L.A. early last week, I bet the Rams on the money line. I'm going to stick to it. If you want to give me 2.5 points, that is fine. I understand the logistics. I understand where the hearts of everybody associated with Los Angeles are at this moment. I still believe the Rams are the better team, and mainly because of a defense that I trust a ton more now, young and improving, to match up with an offense where I'll give the pedigree to the better quarterback by far in this playoff matchup, Matthew Stafford, as compared to Sam Darnold. Again, the Rams, since week number 5, after a 1-4 start, LA won 9 of its next 11 games. And there was the most critical game of this season, in my estimation, week number 8 for LA. You heard it from Dr. Chow earlier. Entering that game, 2-4 for LA. Might they trade Matthew Stafford? Cooper Kupp was hot on that trading block. The Rams beat these Vikings outright at home as a 2.5-point underdog, and then won a couple of other really important games as an underdog against the Buffalo Bills in a high-scoring affair. And then on a short week in San Francisco against the 49ers, outright as a dog as well. In significant moments of this season that have determined what LA has done, they have won outright as an underdog. I'll believe they do that tonight against the Vikings as well. Now time for our favorite total of this game. DRS, I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about the game total overall.
Yeah.
Feels like it could go over. Could also very well stay under. 4 of 5 games already this weekend. Under to start off the postseason. Our highest scoring game in terms of combined points between two teams, just 44. It's not like we had a total at 51 and a hook like we did last night on a Sunday that featured 49 points, barely staying under. There hasn't been a ton of offense. What do you think we see tonight?
Yeah, I think that number is right on it, by the way, for the total 47.5, because really envisioning a game of like a 27-20, 27-21 type game, close game, one possession into the fourth quarter, and that balance will hang in both, obviously, with the spread and the total. But for me, I'm trusting once again that Brian Flores-led defense tonight, team total, I should say, under 23.5. The one thing that we do know is here, in the NFL, much more than recent years, teams going for it on fourth down. The reason you say that is you're passing up field goals to try to trade touchdowns. Doesn't always work in your favor. You saw it last night from the Washington Commanders, a couple fourth downs where you could add points, which end up with nothing here. That's what you're hoping for. You see that 23.5. Just give me one of those possessions on a 4th and 2 in the red zone that the Rams don't get any points, and you should be in good shape. I'm going to take team total under 23.5. I do think they approach that number, obviously, because I think it'll be a close game, but I think they stay under that 24-point number.
Yeah, I'm going to look at 23.5 as well, but for the first half number, I think we could see a slower start tonight between these two teams. And again, 24 being that key number. So the under right now, 23.5, is actually even money. To go over that first half total, that's where the juice lays. But DRS, you guys will be live on In-Game Live Game Day to look at this Monday night finale to Wild Card Weekend. I think there's going to be a ton of live betting opportunities for this matchup between the Rams and the Vikes, both inside and in total. That's how I would actually approach the over-under in the scoring throughout this game. Favorite prop of the night is who and what?
Yeah, I'm really going to dig into this too, but I do have been having fun, I should say, over the past couple of weeks, taking the longest reception props of some players. Yesterday, not a lot of offense in Philadelphia, but how about this? I did hit my over 20.5 on Devontae Smith when he had a 28-yard catch in the second half. I'm going to do the same thing with Justin Jefferson. 5 out of the past 6 games, he's cleared that number. Longest catches in those games, 31, 37, 39, 52, and 30. The only low number was 21. You know he's going to get his deep shots, and also if he doesn't, that 15-yard out that he turns up to get the extra yards, that could help you. I'm going to go Justin Jefferson over 26.5 as his longest reception tonight.
I think it's a great look, and DRS, it is correlated, of course, to Sammy D. I do not believe Darnold is going to be as bad as we saw last Sunday night against Detroit. And when he has not been bad, Justin Jefferson has been incredible. 12 of 17 games this year for J-Jet with at least 81 receiving yards. His prop tonight, 89.5. The highest number is Puka Nacua at 91 and a hook. But, Donnie, if the Rams are going to win tonight outright, Cooper Kupp needs to be there. And Cooper Kupp needs to be heavily involved. Over 48.5, really correlated to how I see this game playing out. But LA, of course, winning outright. When they beat the Rams back, or when they beat the Vikings back in Week 8, Cooper Kupp had more than 50 receiving yards. In that high-scoring game against Buffalo, Cooper Kupp more than 90 receiving yards. Cooper Kupp needs to step up tonight in the biggest way for LA, DRS.
Absolutely, he does. Like, if you're looking again at two players, Aaron Jones, the running back from Minnesota, he's got to be healthy. He's got to play well. Same thing with Cooper Kupp. If both of those guys or one of those guys underperform, that puts a lot of things in peril tonight. So, fun game. We'll look forward to it and end a great wild card weekend.
And we will see you tonight on Sports Grid. Enjoy the money line. We round out the early line next.